Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming. The request to speak from Madam City Attorney, before I call the meeting to order, we have a request form with a name, and this person is not in here at all, and I called their name. Would you please look into the legality so that just falsifying people's name on our city documentation, please? Thank you. All right, with that being said, I would like to call the meeting to order. Let the record show that Councilmember Cobb is not present. We will now have the invocation by Councilman Solomon, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Nash King. Would you all please stand?
Faith. Most precious Father, we want to thank you for this day. This is the day you made. We thank you for this meeting. We ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance as we would take on the city business. We thank you for every citizen that's in Killeen. We thank you for our soldiers. We ask you to protect them, guard them, and guide them. In your mighty name we do pray. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join with me in honoring our nation's flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Councilman Solomon. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Mayor Pro Tem,
Mayor, I move to be approved to present the agenda as printed.
Councilman Alvarez,
Mayor, I second that motion.
all in favor, yes, all opposed, no. Councilman Solomon. Motion carries 6-0. And I would like to go back, Madam City Attorney. We have an exception for our approval of agenda for item number RS 25-175. And the council have already approved it, but that item was left off of the approval of the agenda, with the exception of RS-25-175. I would like to redo that motion because that item was not taken off of the agenda.
Okay, the motion to approve the agenda, I'm sorry. If you want to open up that motion again, you can do so. It's on the agenda, though, so you could, when you're going to approve the consent agenda, approve it without that item because
Okay.
it was withdrawn.
Thank you kindly. With that being said, we will have a presentation with Hill Country Transit District Update, PR-25-023.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Distinguished members of the City Council. For the record, I'm Raymond Suarez, the General Manager of the Hill Country Transit District. I'm here to provide an update on what we think is a very good news story about the progress that we've made since the last time I was here. As you will recall, we worked with the Board of Directors of the Hill Country Transit District a couple of years ago, developed a new strategy, basically overhauling the transit district with new technology, a new approach to delivering service. We started the service September of 2024, And I'm happy to say that ridership is growing significantly. In 2024, on the right, you can see that our ridership, and this was prior to launching the service, was about 140,000 passengers that we carried. In the 9 months so far, we've carried 156,000 with a wonderful customer satisfaction indices of 95, roughly 94.4%. That doesn't mean we're perfect, and we do get calls from concerned citizens. That's always going to be the case, but I'm very happy to say that staff does a wonderful job in getting a hold of people and working with them. We'll probably talk a little bit about that here in the future. The average number of rides, which is a really healthy indicator of people using the system and repeat customers, if you will, averages about 12, almost 13 repeat rides just in the 9 months. About 70% of the folks are using the automated app, the phone application. The rest, they call in typically, and our customer service representatives actually book the trip for them. And between those two numbers, the other 30% we target with travel training to help them learn how to do these trip bookings themselves. So we expect that number will continue to grow. It won't ever get to zero because there are some people that would prefer to call and book their ride and talk to a person. So we feel like that's over and above customer service. The average travel duration is about 15 and a half minutes. That's how long people sit in the vehicle as they're being transported. That doesn't mean every ride is that length. Some are a little bit longer. You have a very large city to serve. And we also take into consideration our commuter route that serves all 5 cities. And the average travel distance is about 4.7 miles. We've also included the top destinations. We know pretty much where everybody, the origin and destination, and then we look at heat maps and we determine like where the most visited locations are. You'll notice number 7, it says Teleperformance and Blackboard. That is an area that is served by, or we serve, that's a general pickup and drop-off area. So there's a few businesses there that we serve. That probably needs to be relabeled, and we will be relabeling it, but in our system, that's the way it's labeled it currently. As you recall, we also started up service at Fort Hood in 2024. We've had tremendous success there. I only present this information because of the proximity and the relationship that the city has with Fort Hood. And I believe I had mentioned in 2024 that the Hill Country Transit District was recognized by the Texas Transit Association. This is an association of all transit systems regardless of size, so it includes Houston, Dallas Air Rapid Transit, Austin, and all the rural districts. And we received the Innovation Award for this system that we deployed at Fort Hood. This year, I'm pleased to announce that out of the national applications that went to the Pentagon for consideration, and this award is specifically for military posts that conduct business with partners. So this is a partner relationship, community relationship award that we received word that Fort Hood is going to be honored at the Pentagon as a award winner of excellence. And they've asked Hill Country Transit District and its delegation to go to Washington, D.C. and be part of that award ceremony. So I would say that this is the first one in the nation. There's already other military outposts that are starting to do, or posts that are starting to do the same thing. So I tell staff pretty often that just because you're small doesn't mean you can't be mighty, and we're doing mighty things. And we're getting national recognition for the work that we're doing here. I'm also pleased to note that the regional system is forecasted to carry about 700,000 rides in 2025, and we're forecasting for next year's budget to hit over 900,000 rides. Just to give you an indication, since the inception of the transit district, we never pierced 1 million riders. We were kind of right at the 1 million rider point, but we're getting really close to all-time highs. So that's, I think, just a an outstanding reflection of your commitment and confidence and patience to help the transit district not only retool, but also to fund us consistently and to hold us accountable for doing things that reflect service excellence. And I'm always very appreciative of that relationship, and it's starting to pay off extremely well. So to give you an idea of where we are, this is the proposed budget. Now, this budget has not been approved. It will be up for approval by the Hill Country Transit District Board on November 5th. But for the city of Killeen, we're projecting our total expenditures of $3.721,784. There's probably a few cents in there, but my accountants always want me to show it, and I'm like, I'm only rounding to the nearest dollar. But it's about $3.7 million. You can see that we're planning on providing 30,000 hours of service directly, and then we partner with TNC providers to do another 125,000 trips. That culminates in unlinked passengers of 270,000, and you can see that the Killeen local share that you contribute to the overall cost is $650,000. And all of this other detail is just the different sources of revenue from fare collection, other grants that we receive. Fort Hood also provides a financial fee that it's called an impact fee that provides additional subsidies to our cities that are impacted by the soldiers that go on and off the base. And another indication is that around between 4 and I would say 5:30 every day, and I'm sure you notice this yourselves, there's a lot of congestion, a lot of traffic, and a lot of that is due to the folks coming in and out of the gates from the installation. And so that impact fee helps fund the cities that have to add more resource into making the service work. So that's the budget. As part of the budget process, every year and in the years to come, we will start asking for meetings with the city staff and with the representatives from the council that sit on our board to talk about where we are with budget, how performance is looking, and what options there are for making changes to it. Recognizing that your city continues to grow and areas that used to be greenfield start filling in, and many times they fill in with residential, other times they fill in with more density. But that map is constantly changing. So every time we draw a new line to say, well, let's cover this area, there are folks that are saying, well, what about us? Because we're just across the street. We didn't even realize that there was a new development happening. So it is a constant tug of war to try to figure out how to provide more coverage, but at the same time, do it within fiscal parameters that don't impact our on-time performance and how long it takes for people to move about. The biggest challenge that every transit system has is if people don't feel confident that a vehicle will pick them up in a certain amount of time and take them where they want to go, they lose confidence in the system and they tend not to use it. So we need to be very careful about how we handle the desire to expand, but also the impact on the existing customers on their wait times. And so we have this constant analysis that we're doing to try to make sure that we're optimizing, not maximizing, but optimizing the system between the financial wherewithal that we have budgeted and then what is it that we can provide to customers to ensure that their confidence level is high, that the system continues to work the way expected to. So as part of that process that started in March and April with the cities, we were receiving input, but there was no guarantees as to what we can do. So I want to make this promise that after tonight, we will come back, we will continue to come back, and I want to have a more in-depth conversation, maybe not at council, but maybe through a workshop scenario or a series of council meetings that you can provide input on how we either serve or don't serve the rest of the city. Currently, we serve 29 and a half miles. That's in that light salmon phase 1 complete. That's what we operate today. You have including, water and everything, around 55.5 square miles. So there's a large segment that's not covered. The majority northeast and, northeast and west are covered. So you can see that the majority of the city that's not covered currently is in the southwest and southeast areas. So I've identified a phase 2 and a phase 3, but as you can see, in between phase 2 and phase 3, you're starting to see a lot of development that's happening. And I don't want to be the ones that are telling you where we are going to deploy without having conversations with council, because there are things that we feel that we can do. I believe that phase 2 that we're recommending is a conservative approach to the next piece. I think the last time the council met, they said, well, what else can we do? And I asked for your patience to allow us to deploy the initial system. Let's get some analytics. Let's figure out where we are, and then we can come back with some recommendations. So the phase 2 and phase 3 are the areas that we would consider deploying in next. But I wanted to do that under 2 primary goals. One is within fiscal constraints. So I'm pleased to say that if it's the board's interest or council's interest, we can, and we've already estimated in our FY26 budget that I showed you, the ability to increase that additional area of phase 2 without any impact to your budget. We're not coming back and asking for any more money. From the perspective of the budget, I was remiss to not say that this will be our 3rd year that we have not asked for not one extra dollar of funds. So we've been able to take care of insurance, give employees 3 years consistently raises. That means that we become more efficient, more effective with our service. So we're recommending to the City Council that you allow us to move forward with phase 2. Nothing has been done yet. So what we're proposing would go into implementation January 2nd. So we're certainly willing and interested in hearing from City Council. So our recommendation is that we would increase the service area in phase 2, allow us about 2 quarters to operate that. We would come back and then start talking about phase 3. So let me walk you through very quickly what phase 2 and phase 3 look like. Phase 3 is a bit of a challenge because of the amount of additional service area that would require. We already, because of the deep analytics that we get, we're already seeing that between 4 and about 5:30, 6 o'clock, those 2 hours of the day, we get heavily congested. So the performance indicators that we typically work from, our service parameters, is an average of a 30-minute wait. Well, during that hour and a half, folks can wait up to an hour because of the congestion on the streets. I think if we even added another vehicle or 2, I don't know that it would significantly change because those vehicles just can't move around. Those roads are congested. So what we're planning right now is a phase 2 deployment. We would come back to City Council to talk about phase 3 and the other areas that are not covered within the city limits. Typically, transit systems don't try to cover the entire city limits because the further out you get, the less density you have in the service area, and it just becomes a financial constraint. My guess, not to be quoted, but I know this is on record, is to cover the majority of the city well and to have that 30-minute frequency, you're probably looking at minimum of $2 million a year in investment. Right now, it's $650,000 a year, just to give you an idea. So let's talk about phase 2. Phase 2 is adding an area about 2 square miles. It's 2.1 square miles from South Clear Creek Road. There's not a defined road on the southern portion of it. We're kind of following the city limits line. That's not a road. That's just looking at geography and then popping out over at Rockwall Drive and then back up north to West End Schluter Loop. That's about 2 miles. We think we can include that. It's within budget. It's within our capacity. We don't think that it'll add a tremendous amount of wait time challenge. But if it does, we can come back to the city, and the outcropping of that would be, instead of having an 18-minute wait, you might have a 20 or 23, 24-minute wait, still within the operating parameters that we've set for the system. So I'd feel much more confident in doing this phase. Let's get it launched. Let's look at the data. Let's see what impact it has. And then we are working with our software providers. It's a team of software companies, including Uber, to continue to innovate. And we feel that unlocking a few more innovations, and they really are innovations, that this will happen in the next 2 quarters. If that happens, then we may get even more efficiency, which would also lower our cost of doing business. So rather than ask you for more money, because your dollars I treat just like if they were out of my own bank account, and I want to be fiscally responsible. So my recommendation to City Council, while I know it may be frustrating that we're not covering the majority of your developments that are happening, I think this is a very fiscally responsible way of looking at deployment. But I want you to be aware that this, if the software program we had been running for 2 or 3 years and we didn't see any changes, then yes, I would be before council saying you have a financial challenge here to continue to expand. But I'm not there yet. I want to continue to make efficiency changes, come back to the council, and then together let's talk about how we plan to move beyond this proposal. So this phase 3, you'll see, is considering Chaparral. When we first came, you could almost bisect this right where it says phase 3. That was the initial area. But since we talked about that, there's been more development happening south towards Chaparral, and we just don't see that really being a smart thing to do, to just bifurcate that and not try to serve the entire area. So when we come back to talk about phase 3, probably mid 2026, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the other areas that are developing quickly, and see what we want to do. But we'll have a much better idea as far as the efficiency gains that we've been able to make. So that is the majority of our presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Solomon and Councilmember Kendrick, I thank both of you for serving on the committee. And sir, congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
From the Pentagon. Job well done. I'm really big on partnerships. And Fort Hood plays a very significant part with the city of Killeen, because we service their family members and also their soldiers. So with that being said, Councilmember Solomon and Councilmember Kendrick, being the council representatives, the recommendation was for us to move forward with phase 2. And in the future for growth, it will go to $2 million. Do y'all have any comments, or did you want to share your opinion on this proposal to the council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say, Mr. Raymond, thank you for you and your team for the great work that you've put into this. I mean, it's amazing how I'm talking about the ridership, how that it has increased. And my question also would be, I know your projection is for 2026 is 270,000. That's which is right now we are at what, 208?
Correct.
Right. So
It's a doubling of ridership in 24
that's what
months.
you're anticipating.
Yes.
Y'all anticipating that it will be a double by time in 2026,
Yes, sir.
which is not too far from here.
Correct.
All right. So I really want to thank y'all just for doing an amazing job. And I've sat on those meetings and what about to come up now in terms of not only the micro transit, but I think we're going to change the whole thing. I'm not going to say, I'll let you talk about that, but we're looking forward to that. But thank you so much. with the Phase 2, Madam Mayor, I'm just, I think that's a good way to go. It's not a cost increase to the city, and it's all about providing for our citizens wherever we can. And this is a good start for us not to have an increase.
Thank you. Councilman Kendrick, did you have anything?
Pretty much caveat on what Councilman Solomon said. We've sat in these meetings, and it's going to be a plus because Phase 2 is actually in the District 4 area, and so that's going to be a plus for the citizens on that side of town, and for it not to be any extra monies right now, and we look at it and see what's projected and how that runs once we get closer to 2026, then that's when I guess you'll come back to the council with the recommendations of the price increase, which you already said. It would go from where we at $650,000 a year to possibly $2 million because of if the ridership increases. I'm on board with same thing Councilman Solomon said. It's for the citizens, and that's what we're here for, to make things better for our citizens in this city.
I want to thank you both for your leadership. Having the extra city council position on the board has definitely helped to ensure that the voice of the cities are being heard. And I think just additional wisdom, additional insight as to how the city is growing. I want to say that the discussion about these two particular areas, because anytime we talk about geography, we're going into somebody's district. But 2 years ago, it was the council had requested that we look at expanding south. And I don't believe either one of you gentlemen were here when that initial request came out. So I just want to make it clear for full transparency that this was us looking at how to continue to serve your communities and serve more and more members of your community. So I want to get that on the record, but I really do appreciate the leadership of Colleen on the board.
Thank you so much, and Mr. Kagos, Councilman Solomon, Councilman Kendrick, and the HOP look at covering the whole city of Colleen, ensuring that we budget and that we have these conversations with the council as we move forward, and that it's not a strain on what we're doing currently within the city limits. That's very important. The budget must line up with the expectations of this council. And thank you for that, sir. And thank you both for your hard work. Councilman Segarra.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Flores, for being here. And I appreciate the presentation. I've been on the council long enough, so I know the heartaches that we've been through with the HOP. If I remember right, originally, I think a long time, I've been on here a long time, but I know we used to give it was 100-some thousand. It was less than 200,000. And I remember Mr. Bertner, I think it was.
Bertner. Yes, sir.
Bertner. And they hadn't done a presentation for a while, and it was kind of a shock when they finally did. And they told us that it would more than double or triple. And I know at that time they were asking for a lot of money. I think we ended up with 400,000. And now I know we had some COVID money and got a couple of million there. But it seems like it's always kind of that up and down. And I know $2 million is a lot. And so my question is, I don't want it to go happen what happened. It's like the reason that council asked for more routes is because they ended up cutting routes.
Correct.
Because we didn't have the money that they were asking for us to be able to support the routes that we already had. And so we started chopping off routes in order to meet that. And so I'm glad that at least right now you're preparing us, because at that time, I think the council, I remember specifically, was kind of upset because it was just a shock. You know, we hadn't heard anything, no presentation. All of a sudden, here's how much money you need in order to do that. At least it gives us that opportunity to kind of prepare. And that's a huge preparation, because I know the city manager, he's the one is got that burden of finding that money, because that's a huge jump from the 650 to $2 million. So my question is that if for some reason, you know, are we doing this as a test period, or, because if it doesn't pan, we're, okay, we got it all in place, now we need the money, well, we don't have the money, so what happens there?
I appreciate that insight, and to make sure that I'm setting expectations, because this is the first time Mr. Cagle's hearing a $2 million number, and I applaud him for not falling out of his chair, so thank you for that. We're not saying that it's going to cost you $2 million. I think if the city council were to, in anticipation of the question, well, what would it take to serve our entire community, because that does happen, I think you're looking somewhere around that number. And that's taken a lot of variables into consideration: productivity, the software changes that we're going to make, the urbanized approach that the city takes as you start infilling some of the green space, the green field. So none of that's really understood at this point. I'm just thinking that in 27, 28, 29, in anticipation of that, this meeting will serve as kind of a, hey, this is what we think it would take to serve the entire city. I don't know that you will ever need to go to $2 million, but it's going to be somewhere beyond phase 2. We're looking at some potential efficiencies, maybe a 15% increase in performance on the entire system. So that'll give us a little bit of room to expand, but it's not going to cover the explosive growth that you're having in your city. Now, when you look at transit systems that are deployed anywhere, their bus services don't cover the entire, especially the larger regions, they don't cover the entire city limits of their cities. Typically, smaller cities do that because it's not geographically challenging, but you have over 50 miles of service area. So I think you might want to stop short at some point, but I think there will be some anticipated increases. We've done everything that we can so far. I think we can probably squeak out another 10 or 15% next year, but that's not going to cover all of the area. So just, I don't know what number to tell you at this point. We'll go through this process again next year and come before council so that you'll have a better idea of what that looks like.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you guys, I know that we went from $1 to $2, right, for the ridership?
We went to $2 for a local fare, and then to ride the commuter service to transfer to another city, it's $4.
Yeah.
And we have what's called a cap, a fare cap on it, to make it fair for everybody. And so that's the general fare. And then if you meet one of the criteria, elderly, disabled, military, veteran, school, if you're in school, you get a 50% discount. So
Got it.
it's $1 for some folks and $2 for general public.
Has that helped increase your budget there?
That's about what we were paying before, but what's helping with the budget is the fact that we have a lot more ridership. So
Yeah.
more ridership generates more revenue. And while it can be used as a match to federal dollars, it can be used to pay your operating expenses.
Yeah.
So that is something, great insight, that is something that our board, all boards need, transit boards need to look at is the patron paying a fair share of the cost, just like insurance.
Yeah.
And so one of the opportunities that the councils can have with your seats on our board is to suggest, and it's part of my responsibility to suggest when is the right time to consider a fare increase. Of course, a lot of folks in this region are on fixed income, so we need to be careful about continuing to try to get the general public to pay for it. But we're also focused on working with K-Tempo and the COG, looking at different CAT or category money, CAT 7, CAT 10, 5310, 5311. There's competitive grants. We're trying to be very creative of how we find additional money to continue to operate. But we have to be careful to not use capital money in lieu of ongoing operations, because that's typically one-time money. And once that's spent, We don't want to be coming back to the board and having a moment like, unfortunately, Daryl had to take some arrows and say, oh, by the way, we're going to have to cut service or have a significant increase in costs. I don't want that to ever happen to this council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and that was Councilmember Sagara, 2017, and Mr. Ron Olson was the city manager, and it was at the utility collection building. I remember it because that was my first year serving as a council member, and I almost fell out my seat. The other concern I have, to piggyback off of Councilmember Sagara, is that to increase the fee for the residents after we already are using their taxpayers' dollars to fund this, it goes back to how we, the council, I won't be on here, well, I will be, but in the near future, how we budget. We cannot do this overnight and covering the entire city. It's almost impossible because we have so many other obligations. To say that phase 2 is free, to me, I think that's something that we earned throughout the years because we paid so much in. And the incident Councilmember Sagara speak of in 2017 was really an insult to us, that out of the blue, it would increase to that rate when we have been faithful in ensuring that we pay our part to assist many times during the crisis of the HOP. And that was not your fault. It was the way they budget funding. So I am grateful that you and your team have gotten everything on track, and truly grateful for your transparency with this council and working with us, and always keeping our city manager who controls the budget, because we are so growing, as you stated, and safety, public safety is this council top priority, even though we have a wish list. And you make envision for us, but the budget has to line up with it. Thank
Well,
you.
my background is actually in finance
Yes,
and
sir.
in accounting, and I've worked with other transit districts, many of which have a dedicated sales tax. I actually enjoy the fact that we don't have a dedicated sales tax because it makes us wake up every morning and earn what we do. And as part of our culture, that's part of it, is earning our keep, showing our value, making sure that we're not drinking our own Kool-Aid, thinking that we're adding value to cities when it's not happening. So on behalf of the staff and our board, we're honored to serve your city. We want to continue to do a good job in full transparency, and we hope to be back pretty often to give you updates on the progress.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam. And so they've touched on several of the points. I won't belabor them. But my question was regarding the update on the public-private partnerships. We had talked at one point during previous meetings about potential advertising opportunities within the communities. How is that going, or have you had any luck there, or have you even implemented that process yet?
So this year, we hired a marketing communications expert. We added them to the team. Just highly, highly skilled. We needed to set up the foundation, get the things up and operating. We've revamped our website. We've improved our communications. We'll be putting out publications. We needed to make sure that we understood how the service is working. Our focus going into the year will be looking at how we advertise and how we actually get through. You can actually set up what's called a transit management association for, this is not part of the transit district, this would be an independent entity, and you can have various members of that entity. Typically, you'd have private sector and colleges or universities, maybe the hospitals, on that to kind of talk about what their needs are, but it's totally up to them on whether they want to invest. So the two ways we can look at increasing additional revenue sources is through advertising and through public-private investment through a transit management association. That's kind of the next phase that we will be moving into.
When you say Transit Management Association, does that fall under the transit oriented development agreements? Would that fall under that umbrella?
No, it's a little bit different. If you can think of like a homeowners association or other associations where you have individuals that form in this case, it would be a nonprofit organization, and it has its own board, it create their own bylaws, and they can deal with matters of things like how do we recruit workforce. You usually want a broad brush of private and public partners to kind of talk about some of the challenges. Workforce Commission would also be a good partner in that to kind of talk about how we fund and sustain transit. How do we get workers to industrial parks that are operating, maybe they're operating 24/7, 365, and the transit system only operates during business hours. That really is not a big help to companies like HEB or others that are either already here or thinking about moving to the area. But there are creative things that we can do with transit under the umbrella of things like Uber and Lyft and partnerships that we can do to take care of off hours and weekends. And there's a lot of creative things that we can do with them, but it's really getting that understanding. Not every community or region is the same. There may not be the same need for that here as there might be in the Austin area or Round Rock area, and it's something that we have to grow into and get feedback from our businesses to see what they're interested in.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for saying that you're also going to continue to look at federal funding, grant opportunities, and state opportunities as well. Just very briefly, because one of my questions was about the dedicated transit funding or those taxes. You said you weren't a fan. Is it just because of the red tape, or what was the reason behind not being in support of that?
I'll try to condense it just for brevity's sake. The sales tax is capped for our cities. So when you look at the cities, just finding unallocated sales tax is a challenge. To create a transit district that actually is taking in sales tax, that sales tax comes in from retail and other businesses straight to the comptroller's office, and then from the comptroller's office into the transit district. So the cities lose a bit of say and control. The benefit to the transit district is that it has a dedicated source of funding, and you don't have to worry about us hitting your general fund. But let's be transparent about it. Those funds are getting collected from your businesses, going to the comptroller. The comptroller then feeds it to the transit district. Right. So there's a lot of folks that would say, and we operate in both scenarios where there is a dedicated transit fund. But after 30 years of working with a diversified transit boards, when I say diversified, I'm talking about multiple cities putting in. The tendency is for cities to feel like they're not getting their fair share. And while that makes it much more challenging for me and our staff because we have to meet with each city to get a budget approved, we're under a sales tax. We wouldn't have to do that because we know with the sales tax that's coming in, we'd have to forecast that. But we know that funding's coming in. And then the councils tend to lose control because the only control you have over your funds then is really through your representation on our board, right? So that's why I'm saying what I've seen in larger transit districts, and this is becoming I think in the next 10 years, it'll become a very significant large region where you want to consider actually creating a regional transit district or a mass transit authority. And typically when you do that, when you go to an MTA, you go to the voters of the cities, they have to vote in, but part of that process is allocating either sales tax or ad valorem tax, some form of tax that funds the transit district to do more capital-rich things like maybe adding light rail or commuter rail. The density in this region is not quite there, but I think it's coming. It's coming probably in the next 5 to 10 years.
Very good.
So it's something to consider.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, sir. As you know, I wasn't initially a fan of the microtransit. I think I told you.
Yes, sir.
But I held on, give it a year, and you didn't disappoint.
Thank you.
I've heard both complaints and congratulations. And to Councilwoman Gonzalez's point, The advertising may help, because I still run into people that say, what happened to the buses? And I have to tell them, you don't see the hop signs you just don't have the green bus riding around anymore.
Right.
So, and I like the idea, because I was one of the ones that asked about expanding south, because we have a group.
I recall, I just didn't want to point you out,
Oh,
sir.
it's all right. It's a fishbowl, so. But I like the idea of no new costs. And I know I brought up, and I'm not asking now, but as you plan, consider the extended hours. I know you talked about that, but I'm not asking if there's a way to do it with no cost. But in your future planning, because we do have service workers that do work after the hours, or they get off after the hours that you're closed. And those are the same ones that needed to hop to get to work. Then they got to figure out how to get back. Something to consider. And I'm not asking that now, but as you continue your planning. And even with that, I applaud you on the steady growth with limited costs and how you're working with the city as we grow and paying attention to that. And I know in K-Tempo meetings, we've talked about the transit dollars. I know AASHTO, AMPO, and NOC are all advocating for additional funds across the country to go into the transit. And I agree with you. When the county hits a $500,000, we become an urban county. And if the county's a $500,000, we're a whole lot more. So that the discussion on a mass transit becomes a major discussion at that point. But it's also a costly discussion and decision. And I'm glad that you guys are thinking about that. Outside of what I just asked, just to consider is the hours. Thanks again for what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And once again, council, we have 2 representatives that sit on that committee to represent us. So as far as any requests, Councilmember Solomon, Councilmember Kendrick, would you take that under consideration when that entire board meet as you represent the City of Killeen Council and staff and residents? Once again, sir, thank you and
Thank you very much.
congratulations on your award.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, it is currently 3:47. As we get ready to go, yes, that was a lengthy conversation. Well worth it, well worth it. We will now have our work session, discuss agenda items 2 through 16 for October 21st, 2025 regular session. There's no final actions until regular session. Madam Secretary.
RS 25162, consider a memorandum resolution approving change order number 2 to the Taxiway E relocation contract with TTG Utilities, Inc., resulting in a reduction of $343,611.62.
Good afternoon, number 1, Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The item we have tonight is a change order for the Taxiway relocation project. Just a little bit of background, just to remind you, on August 20th, 2024, City Council awarded the contract to TTG Utilities for the Taxiway relocation project. This was a section of Taxiway at the Killeen Regional Airport that required rehabilitation. But due to updated Federal Aviation Administration taxiway design standards, any rehabilitation necessitated a full relocation. Change order number 2 includes the replacement of sign panels, the installation of an additional concrete flume, repair of some spalled concrete edges at the interface of the existing and new pavement sections for Taxiway Echo, the reconciliation of final project quantities, and this final change order reconciles the quantities and ensures FAA compliance and closes out the project within budget, actually under budget. Okay, what did I do? The recommendation is the City Council authorize the city manager to execute change order number 2 for Taxiway relocation project with TTG Utilities Incorporated, reducing the contract amount by $343,611.62. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Wilson, thank you and your team for all you do.
Thank you, ma'am.
I will read the next two items. They'll be presented by the same staff member. RS 25163, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city of Fort Worth to allow the city of Killeen to participate in the commercial card agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. RS 25164, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing award of bid number 26-04 tire services to Ollarvides Tire Service LLC for fiscal year 2026 in an amount of $382,000.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, because this presenter has two items, the Madam Secretary just read both of them. Moving forward, if a presenter have more than one item, she's just going to read them all. And they can just go to the slide deck after that. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council. As stated, this item discusses entering into an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth for participation in the commercial card agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. A little background, Citibank has been used since 2011 for the city's commercial card program. The state's contract with Citibank ended September 1st, 2025. The state is now contracted with U.S. Bank, therefore all existing cards with Citibank will be terminated by February of 2026. The Finance Department assessed other commercial card programs and determined JP Morgan Chase as the best fit for a new commercial card provider. JP Morgan is also the city's depository bank and offers a virtual card program. The commercial card program with JP Morgan Chase N.A. is offered through an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth. Authority to piggyback off of this agreement is provided by Chapter 791 of the Texas Government Code and Subchapter F, Chapter 271 of the Texas Local Government Code, which permits local government to participate in cooperative purchasing agreements. There is no cost to the city to have a commercial card program. However, rebates are given based off of annual credit card spending and a 29-day payment cycle. The estimated annual rebate is $34,000. The alternatives are to either contract with U.S. Bank through the State of Texas contract for the city's commercial card program or enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth and contract with JP Morgan Chase for the city's commercial card program. The recommendation is that City Council authorize the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth to allow the City of Killeen to participate in the commercial card agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you. Okay, this next item is for Fleet Tire Services. Tire services are primarily for heavy trucks and off-road equipment. This includes delivery, installation, repair, retreading, and disposal. The annual tire service cost averages $307,000 per the last 4 years. FY 2025 was $342,000, and FY 26 is estimated to be $382,000. Bid 26-04 was advertised in August 2025 for tire services. 4 bids were received, and Ollarvides Tire Services LLC submitted the most advantageous bid with the lowest aggregated pricing, extended tire warranty, and demonstrated exemplary performance with other municipalities. The agreement term is 6 months with the option to renew for 5 additional 6-month periods, resulting in a 3-year contract. The recommendation is that City Council authorize the award of bid 26-04 tire services to Ollarvides Tire Services LLC, an amount of $382,000 for FY 2026, and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be reading the next two items. RS 25165, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 26-03, water and sewer materials to multiple vendors for fiscal year 2026 in an amount not to exceed $990,570. RS 25166, consider a memorandum resolution awarding bid number 26-05, street construction materials to select vendors for fiscal year 2026 in an amount not to exceed $1 million.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Madam Mayor, Council, good afternoon. Each year, water and sewer utilizes various materials to operate and maintain a water distribution system and the sewer collection system. Material items are procured through a bid process on an annual basis, and bidders are selected by individual material line items based on the low bid for that item and vendor's ability to meet the obligation of that item, the bid requirements. On August 27th of this year, 7 bids were received for bid number 26-03, water and sewer materials estimated quantities for the 12-month period. 7 vendors were selected on a per item basis, and listed are those seven vendors that were selected. The vendor that was not selected had an incomplete bid. That's why they were not selected for this bidding process. We have 2 alternatives here: to reject all bids and purchase items on an as-needed basis, which would be more costly, or authorize the award of the bid of contracts to the selected vendors in an amount not to exceed $990,570. Staff recommends the City Council authorize the award of bid number 2603, water and sewer materials, to the selected vendors, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute contracts with the selected vendors in an amount not to exceed $990,570 for FY 2026. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Right. This is the same process we did for we did this for streets materials. The annual bid, the city solicits bids for street construction materials on an annual basis. Materials are used by multiple departments in a variety of different applications, including construction and repair of roadways, parking areas, and water mains. Contracts can be utilized by multiple departments within the city. On September 3rd of this year, purchasing received 8 bids in response to bid number 26-05, street construction materials. The following 6 vendors were selected. We have 2 alternatives. We can reject all bids and purchase on a per order, per project basis, or we can authorize a bid award of bid number 26-05, street construction materials to the selected vendors in an amount not to exceed $1 million citywide. And staff recommends that City Council authorize the award of bid number 2605, street construction materials, to the selected vendors in an amount of $1 million citywide, not to exceed $1 million citywide in FY 2026, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute the agreements, and furthermore execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. Be happy to answer any questions.
So both of them are together?
There are 2 separate bids that were for water and sewer, ma'am. Those are for the repairs that were needed. So we got the fire hydrants, you got valves, you got things of that nature. This right here is for actual street construction materials, base, asphalt, concrete, things of that nature. So then that's a citywide contract not to exceed $1 million. So they're basically the same process, but for 2 different materials. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just totally 2 different water, street.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reynolds, just real quick, what's your process for when you got like 6 or 7 of them like that? How do you go about picking which one to use?
Yes, sir. What we do is we go out and we put out the items that we want to get bidded on, and all the vendors kind of bid on those items that they want. They pick and choose what they want to bid on. Some of the vendors bid on the same items, but what we do is we select several vendors so that we can, depending on the time of the year, vendors have up, down, so we go with the lowest price for the city at that time, so it gives us options as we get ready to purchase those items.
So you, in a sense, just created a local buy board, right?
Basically.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you use that same process before?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, last year, I remember that.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
All right.
I'll be reading off the next 8 items. RS 25167, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a professional services agreement for the design of the Mohawk Drive roadway project with Pape Dawson Engineers LLC in the amount of $1,417,641.58. RS 25168, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 26-06 Lift Station Number 6 Rehabilitation and Expansion Project to Bell Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $6,961,950.10. RS 25169, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a contract amendment for professional design services with BGE, Inc. for the final design of the Ransier Avenue project in the amount of $7,396,410.95. RS 25170, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 26-07, 24-inch Highway 195 and Chaparral Road Waterline Project to BlackRock Construction with a contract in the amount of $9,981,018. RS 25171, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing contract amendment number 2 for the professional services agreement with Freese and Nichols for the final design and right-of-way services for Phase 1 of the Chaparral Road Widening Project in the amount of $6,351,144. RS 25172, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of an easement conveyance agreement with BTM Holding, LLC, to acquire additional permanent utility easement and temporary construction easement in exchange for 2 tracts totaling 0.3 acres for the Highway 195 waterline and ground storage tank projects. RS 25173, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing change order number 1 with Saris Builders for the Fire Station number 4 project for a reduction of $514,916.27. RS 25174, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement with Aquametric Sales Company for Phase 3 of the water meter replacement program in an amount of $1,305,192.78.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good afternoon, Mr. Zagers.
Good afternoon, Mayor, fellow council members. So we have a few items just to go through here, but we'll try to make it quick. So the first one is a professional service agreement with Pape Dawson Engineers for the design for Mohawk Road improvement. If you recall, during last September, on the 17th, the City Council had a meeting where they were discussing potential projects for future bond for capital projects in '25. That included the Mohawk Road improvement project. On April 1st, it should be 2025, the City Council passed an ordinance to issue and sell CO bonds, CO 2025, with capital projects that included the Mohawk Road project. Let's see, this project is including constructing Mohawk Drive. Right now, there is no roadway, it's just a wide open dirt and, sediment and stuff like that. To extend Mohawk from Bunny Trail over to Castle Gap Drive, and it will tie in the subdivision to the north to start getting those connections and another entrance towards Bunny Trail, which has been lacking. The road we're going to construct will be 3 lanes. It'll include sidewalks on both sides, street trees, stormwater design improvements. There'll be a crossing of the ditch there, whether it'll be culvert or bridge. We'll figure that out during the design. Also extending a new 12-inch water main to go from Bunny Trail towards the alignment of Mohawk. And as that road increases through development, we'll be extending that road all the way to 195, or that water line over to 195 with the roadway. Let's see, the Pape Dawson Engineers is the engineer we selected and interviewed. They will provide the design proposal in the amount of $1,417,641.58. The project limits, again, is from Bunny Trail to Castle Gap Drive. It'll tie in actually both subdivisions to the north and to the south and give that other entrance over to Bunny Trail. And then as the development goes to the east, it'll extend Mohawk to 195. And then staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager or designee to enter into a professional service agreement with Pape Dawson Engineers for the design of Mohawk Drive Road project in the amount of $1,417,641.58. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is a bid award for the lift station number 6 rehab and expansion project. In 2025, the Water and Wastewater Master Plan included this project 1S, the rehab and expansion for lift station number 6, which is located at 3816 Water Street, right by AA Lane Park. Lift station number 6 was built in 2001, and it needs some rehab. It needs to be updated and also be expanded. We want to expand from a pumping capacity of 17 million up to 24 million gallons per day. Lift station primarily serves that northeastern portion of the city and is the largest and most critical lift station of our sewer collection system. Let's see, on September 10th, 2025, we received 2 bids in response to the bid request. They were from Bell Contractors and SSP LP. This is actually the base bid, which is the lift station, but we also included alternate 1, which is recoating of the wet well as well. We did have really favorable bids, so we were looking at getting it all done. Bell Contractors was the contractor selected based on price and as well as interviews. They have performed really well in other projects in the city. They were the most responsible low bidder for the project, and we feel is the best value for the city. Here's a picture of where the location is. Again, those are the 2 water tanks over there by AA Lane Park, and it kind of sits on the north side a little below. There's kind of a drop-off if you've been out there between the tanks and where this lift station is, right there on Water Street. There's a picture of the existing building. And our recommendation is authorize the award of bid number 2606, lift station number 6, rehabilitation and expansion project to Bell Contractors, Inc. Authorize the city manager or designee to execute a construction contract in the amount of $6,961,950.10 with Bell Contractors, Inc. And furthermore, authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. There are no questions.
Okay, the next one. This is a contract amendment number 2 with BGE for the final design of the Rancier Avenue project. Okay, in fiscal year '23, the capital improvement plan included the Rancier Avenue replacement and streetscaping improvement project. The project is being funded through our tax increment reinvestment zone, TERS, number 2. In addition, we do have an existing K-Tempo grant for a portion of sidewalk on one side from Fort Hood over to W.S. Young, and that's in the amount of $3,240,000. And then on December 6, 2022, the City Council, we authorized a professional service agreement with BGE, and that was to complete a schematic design of the Rancier Avenue project and streetscaping project in the amount of $813,453.73. On November 5th, and last year in '24, City Council authorized execution of a design contract amendment number 1. That was to proceed the design up to a 30%. In the amount of a 30% kind of schematic, starting to deal with the utilities and finalize what the road's going to look like. And that was in the amount of $2,037,006.37. And then this proposed contract amount on amendment number 2 will continue the design to get it to the final bid phase, get the final design, have all the paperwork we need to move the project towards bidding, and that is in the amount of $7,396,410.95. And this amendment, it includes the TxDOT coordination. Since we do have a grant through K-Tempo, we have to coordinate everything and follow the federal process through TxDOT. We have the final utility design. If you recall, we want to underground all the utilities, get mainly from W.S. Young to Fort Hood is all the utilities will be underground. And then there'll be a little transition from 38th to W.S. Young on the utilities. But getting rid of all the ugly lines, get them underground. We'll have pavement design, signal design, replacing all the signals in that section, landscape design, getting street trees, median design, improvements around the whole corridor. Right-of-way services, which is trying to acquire right-of-way. There is some areas we do need to get right-of-way along that corridor in order to get all the road and the utilities and everything in place. And then again, preparation of the bid documents and all the final plans. This is the project limits from 195 all the way to 38th Street. This is kind of what the concept was and what the 30% plans kind of show what we're looking to do on Rancier. Really make it look different. Underground utilities, getting decorative sidewalks, street trees, medians, improved signals, just amenities and bike lanes, make it more pedestrian and friendly, pedestrian bike friendly, in addition to improving safety along the corridor. And then recommendations, the City Council authorized the city manager or designee to execute a contract amendment for the professional service design services and construction bidding phase with BGE for the final design of the Rancier Avenue project in the amount of $7,396,410.95. And here for any questions.
Thank you and your team for such an amazing job. And to see these slides, when I came on 2017, I saw my first video of how it was going to look. And this is 2025. And that's a team effort. And with that, I want to thank Councilmember Alvarez, Councilwoman Gonzalez, and Mr. Cagle. They sat on the tours. And also Councilmember Solomon and Mayor Pro Tem Adams. They sat on K-Tempo. And I am very grateful that the teamwork that went into this. In 2017, Councilmember Sagara was the mayor at that time, and that whole council, which I could call them by name, but I'm not sure if they want me to, but it started there with that council there, and to see it today, that's a team effort. And you know, you go beyond. You have the spirit of excellence, and for that, I thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for those comments. And I agree, there's a lot of people that deserve a lot of credit. And this is a process, this is something that's been going a long, long time, and I'm glad to see, we're making progress here. And hopefully there's light at the end of this tunnel here. But the question I have, and which is a pleasant surprise up there, and you talk about the utilities, because I know that I had asked that many years ago about the utilities, and I think that the response at that time was that that kind of falls into Encore, whoever manages those. So is that something that we're going to be doing, or do they do it and we got to pay, or are they going to pay, or how's that work?
So it depends on the utility and what we're doing. So since we're undergrounding, we will have to pay for certain costs, material costs, installation, but I believe the moving of the lines will be on Encore. It'll be a lot of coordination, because it's not only just Encore. We have gas lines, water lines, sewer lines, fiber optic, telecommunication. We got to deal with all of them. It all depends on the franchise agreement. With Encore, specifically as undergrounding, that cost is on us, but they move the lines. Fiber optic's a little different. We can coordinate with them. They're responsible for moving their lines, but we'll have our contractors most likely do the utility trench, putting in the conduits, putting in the boxes, all the other facilities that they need, and then coordinating with all those utilities. So we look at doing this project in a two-phase type of construction. We want to do the utilities first. There's a lot of stuff to do, and then that's going to take a lot of coordination, get all that done, get all the utilities out of the way, and then we can go in and kind of do the surface pretty work, stuff that makes it look like the sidewalks, the curbs, the side. This stuff will go a lot quicker.
Yeah, no, it's a major project. It's one of our largest projects I think we've ever done. And I think the utilities in itself, I mean, everything else looks beautiful, but that in itself is going to change the landscaping, because when you go down, all you see is not only utilities, but you see kind of poles just kind of leaning one way or another. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think that's great news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. I know K-Temple did a public hearing a couple of months ago, Was any comments taken from that will affect the design? Do you remember?
No negative comments other than, if I recall, wanted to get it done. Everyone likes it and there was support for this project. Actually, both projects we had a lot of support.
Okay. After the design, when do you anticipate we're coming back to start the actual bill?
Well, it depends on funding. We are going through, we'll have to coordinate with the TERS money and debating on if we receive any more grants or any more dollars. We're still actively pursuing a build grant for next year, though.
Right.
That application is due in January. We didn't get it this year, but we had an extremely favorable review. I think it came down to the fact that they didn't have any money this year. So next year, there's $1.5 billion going to that grant, and we're going in with an extremely strong application now that they have seen and are familiar with. So we're going to pursue that. We're going to pursue any other funding opportunities, and then whatever's left over, we'll be funding through the TERS.
Yeah,
And-
that's a
and as soon
major
as-
advocacy
yeah.
item with the bill grant. On the same thing, the Safe Streets for All grant, I know there's still some money left because we approved the plan with K-Tempo, but I think we can still submit under that grant. So if you can look into that as
Yeah.
well, some possible
Now
some
that
additional funds.
now that K-Tempo's done their plan, we can now, as a jurisdiction, now we can apply
Right.
for, say, SS4A grants. We couldn't before because K-Tempo didn't finish theirs yet. So we have some projects on there listed. I think Rancier was one of them.
Yes.
So we can look towards when those that are open for applications, we can do that.
All right, thank you.
And one more thing before we move to the next item, I want to thank Tad Dora and Bell County Commissioners and Central Texas College representative because they also sit on the TERS. And I just didn't want to make it seem like it's just Colleen. It's a team effort to make this happen. But once again, thank you and your team for your hard work.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about water. So this is a bid award for the 24-inch new water line along Chaparral Road and Highway 195. And this, in 2025, a part of the master plan, this project, the 1W and 2W were included. This is for a new 24-inch water line along Highway 195, and that's going to go from Chaparral up to near Stagecoach, where the water tank's going to be up on the hill on the east side. And then from the new tank we have on Chaparral over to 195, which is the pump station and obviously tank. This new water line will enable transmission of water from Chaparral Pump Station over to the western half of the city in the upper pressure plain. On September 17th, 2025, we received 8 bids for this project. For the water line. The location is where we're seeing, the blue line is actually where the project limits are. So it starts at the blue dot, which is the tank and the pump station. It goes west to the intersection 195, goes up to Stagecoach. And then that square up on the hill, that's the new water tank that'll be coming out. We have another item kind of talking a little bit that's related to that item. Okay, these are the bidders that we received and the bid amounts, and they were all favorable. They were a lot under the engineer's estimates, so we were quite happy with that because that helps us with anything else that may happen in the next few years. And then also I'm working towards other projects on the master list if we can do that. So Black Rock Construction did submit the lowest responsible bid. Whoops. Missed it. So again, Black Rock Construction selected the bid for the vendor bid number 2607 for the 24-inch water line. They're responsible low bidder, provided the best value, at least in price. Our consultant did reach out, and since Black Rock's never worked in the city, we did reach out to all their references and check. The engineer did that, and no one had anything negative to say. They've had successful projects with Black Rock, so between those communications and the bid, our consultant gave us a recommendation to move forward with awarding to Black Rock Construction. And then the recommendation is authorize the award of bid number 2607, the 24-inch Highway 195 and Chaparral Road Waterline Project to Black Rock Construction Authorize the city manager or designee to execute a construction contract in the amount of $9,981,018 with BlackRock Construction, and furthermore authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. And then here for any questions.
Thank you.
All right. And we got another small project to talk about here. So we are here for the contract amendment number 2 with Friesen Nichols for the final design of Chaparral Road, the Phase 1 project. Now this one has also another project with a little bit of history. So in 2019, the City of Killeen, City of Harker Heights, KISD, and Bell County entered into a memorandum of understanding, MOU, for the Chaparral Roadway widening project. In 2020, the city applied for a construction funding grant through the Killeen Temple Metropolitan Planning Organization, or KTEMPO, and was awarded $12,880,000. And that was supposed to be for the whole project. So, in fiscal year 2022, the CIP included the Chaparral Roadway widening project for the design and the construction. On September 27th of '22, the City Council approved replacing the MOU with an interlocal agreement to make it more formal, make it sure that it's an actual agreement. And this was going to be between the City of Killeen and the City of Harker Heights and Bell County for the Chaparral Roadway widening project. If you recall, by then, the high school was under construction, and they built a portion of the roadway in front of the school. So in their eyes, they did their part and gave it to us. Let's see. And then on October 18th, 2022, the City Council approved a professional service agreement with Friesen Nichols for the schematic design of Chaparral Roadway widening project in the amount of $1,485,240. And this was for the entire length. This is going to go from 195 all the way over to Harker Heights into Stillhouse Lake Road there. The schematic design included reviewing all 3 proposed alignments, which were the realignments from Featherline to East Tremere. There was a section where we wanted to go past the high school, extend the road, and then get it down to the alignment over there at East Tremere, and how we were going to do that. You recall, we also went to council and got that approved. This has also included TxDOT coordination. Since it is a grant and we're looking at federal grants, we have to coordinate with TxDOT, and we have to go through the National Environmental Policy Act, which is NEPA. That's the environmental reviews, the historical reviews. We have to go through those before we even go to the next step of right-of-way acquisition. So it's a very step-by-step, but a very long process anytime you federalize something. This included the historical and environmental reviews. This also included preliminary roadway, drainage, and intersection design. So we're kind of see what the roadway is going to look like and what we wanted to do. During the schematic process, that's where we really were working with KTEMPO and everyone. We're going to split this project into phases. It's a 6.5 mile long road, very long. It's very infeasible to do that all as one project. So we broke it up into phase 1 and phase 2. There was a phase 3. Then we looked at breaking phase 1 into 2 phases. So phase 1A and a phase 1B. The initial phases was a 195 to East Tremere, and then East Tremere to Stillhouse Lake. And then we were working with, working with TxDOT, working with KTEMPO, looking at all the reviews. That's when we started looking at what are the other possible phases we can do to keep this project moving forward. We finalized the phase 1A, which is now SH 195 to the high school, a 1B, which is Chaparral from the high school over to East Tremere, which is that roadway realignment going through areas where there's no roadway. Phase 2, which is East Tremere to Stillhouse Lake Road. And then Phase 3 is actually a Harker Heights project. They got funding through KTEMPO to put a new signal in over at Stillhouse Lake and where Chaparral is, and they're going to be putting in where the new alignment is. They're not going to build the full road. They're just going to get the signal and extend a 2-lane road up to it. And then we will finish it off with that Phase 2. This amendment, number 2, is in the amount of $6,351,144, and it includes the final design for Phase 1A. This is the project we want to we're going to use our funding, work with K-Tempo, but we're keeping this project on schedule so we can get this project out and looking at that 28, 29 construction time. So we're dealing with the right-of-way services, getting right-of-way, permitting, finalizing the text out approval for the entire project, but also getting everything we need for this portion. And then also grant applications. We're always looking for money. This is an expensive project. We have a little bit with, K-Tempo, but we also need more for the construction funding. And then this amendment includes that final text dot coordination, final roadway and utility design, landscape design, right-of-way services, getting right-of-way, getting all the contracts, negotiating with the people, the residents that live along there, and then preparation of all the bid documents and final plans for that 1A. And then project schedule, we're working on this to get the complete bid package and all ready by 2028. So then it'll be a matter of, once we have funding, we go out and go to construction as soon as we can. Next couple slides are showing what we're doing. This is based on the schematic design. The left side of the screen is 195, showing kind of the sidewalk, the multiple colors, showing medians, showing a roundabout when we get to that first intersection there. It continues on, and once we get over to Tremere, there'll be another roundabout. When we get over the Turnbow Ranch, there'll be a roundabout there. So that full section from 190, with all the roundabouts, allows us to narrow it down, restrict the access, so we utilize the roundabouts for safety. So get rid of those left turns and have everyone do right turns and utilize the roundabouts. It's a very safe design, kind of prevents a lot of potential accidents out there and conflicts with pedestrians and buses and everything else. And as we continue on towards the high school, we already know about Featherline getting a signal, and then right before the school, right there where Chaparral does the 90-degree, we'll have a signal there as well. We're working right now with the county to get those temporary signals out, but these will be the final ones with this project. And then the recommendation is for City Council to authorize the city manager or designee to execute a contract amendment number 2 for the professional services agreement with Friesen Nichols for the final design and right-of-way services for Phase 1A of the Chaparral Road widening project in the amount of $6,351,144. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Do you have anticipate any changes to this final design?
I think we're at the point where we already went through council, we know the alignment. It's just going to be, as we go through the design, there may be some small things. We already know that the studies that we've done for traffic, that those roundabouts work. It's going to be coordinating with the residents when we get through the right-of-way negotiations and we start looking at that, there may be some little tweaks we have to do, help accommodate whatever negotiations we can do. But ultimately, that's what we're really trying to do and get out there and what we feel is probably the safest road we can build.
Okay, and I know we had some change orders in the past, and it goes back to you, Mr. Cagle, that wiggle room in our budget. If those little small changes happen, will we be in line with that? Any changes? Because this is a major project. This is a project that is needed, and I love the partnership as always.
Yes, ma'am. As far as the engineering design goes, we can deal with small changes.
Okay.
But what do those turn into in construction? That's going to be
That's
an issue
another
because this
story.
is, in total, one day when you get to drive from 195 to Harker Heights, you're driving on a roadway that's probably $140 million.
Probably by the time it's
Yes,
done.
and so this is going to require some significant K-Tempo federal money. At your next meeting, I believe, Commissioner Whitson and Minor will come over and present us with a $3 million check that helps fund this $6.3 million.
That makes me smile.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, you all right then. Okay, you all right. All right, thank you, thank you.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry, he clicked on, I didn't see it. Mayor Pro Tem.
And I know a couple of phases are still on the tip with this new phase breakdown. And thanks for your service on the TAC to keep us straight on the policy board because there was some confusion that at least I had a little bit. But I know that I thought there was some funds already allocated. It was just on hold as part of the infrastructure bill, but we couldn't do anything because we didn't do the design yet.
We just have, the only one we've been authorized is the funding from K-Tempo. We haven't been issued anything else at this point. There's still discussions, there's still possible money out there, but you got to go through the process, you got to go through the request. K-Tempo is dealing with, their funding allowances and making sure that they're spending. We're going to have to coordinate with K-Tempo again to solidify all the phases and how we're moving that forward. We will be coming back to the council with a revised AFA agreement with K-Tempo to specify that new, with the new description of the phases. And of course, we have to modify the tip that they have for K-Tempo. But anytime there's any funding, we're going to be aggressively looking for it. So if there is funding out there in the federal transportation, we will be asking for it.
With us going through the TIP process now, anything we need to add?
This part of it, we're dealing with Rancier in the TIP process on K-Tempo. This changes and stuff will be next year's TIP revision, solidifying all those phases. So,
Okay, and for the record, TIP for everyone is Transportation Improvement Plan.
correct.
All right. So
Yeah, and
thanks.
K-Tempo has one they have to do every
Yes.
year and revise it, and it's based on a 5-year plan through TxDOT.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just had one quick question. You said it's not scheduled to start until 2028?
That would be the earliest. We're planning to make sure we have all our design and everything completed for
Right.
that. If we do have all the money, we're going to bid it as soon as we can.
Right.
It'll be then.
I wanted to have that understanding because we have we've had citizens come in and ask those questions and about when it's supposed to get started, and there was confusion. So I just want to know that is what it is.
We've had several news articles. This project has been, it's been evolving. It's been morphing from what one phase is, description. Our goal is to keep something going and get a road and get a new road. The emphasis is from 195 to the high school based on a lot of the public comment, a lot of the issues with Featherline, what we've heard the last few years. So that has always been that priority. We were looking at the realignment. We've had some issues with our environmental review. Rules have changed while we started the project and where we are today. And so that's why we've looked at it and worked with TxDOT, worked with K-Tempo to make sure this Phase 1A is feasible, it's successful, it's beneficial to the public. It's that portion that's really needed. And most of all, we're keeping this project moving forward so those funds do get spent and allows us to get, opportunities for more.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Next item. Okay, this is an execution of an easement conveyance agreement with BTM Holdings LLC. And on January 21st, 2025, the City Council authorized the purchase of a 1.024 acre tract for the construction of a water tank on a hill located near 195 and Tower Hill Lane. If you remember the chaparral, just a little moments ago when we talked about the 24-inch chaparral, this is the little blue box that was on that map on top of the hill, just east of 195, in between Chaparral and Stagecoach. There are two small tracts within that 1.024 acre, total size 0.3. We've determined that we don't need. There are two little areas that we're looking at, the existing tank and a future tank, but there's some leftover area that we really don't need. And so we were negotiating with the property owner because we didn't need that land, but we did need easements to get a pipeline up there or water line up from the water tank. So negotiating with that property owner is where, which is BTM, they own 177 acres around that tank. And then we worked with them to kind of negotiate a little swap of this land with those easements. We find, again, the two areas there wasn't a practical thing for the public purpose. It was just leftover area by where the new tank and the existing tanks are located on top of the hill. So in order to construct that water main, the 24 water main, we needed that easement. We needed additional easement along 195, and then we also needed we have an existing easement going up the hill, but we need a little bit wider for another pipe. So that's where we're negotiating those easements with that property owner, with BTM. And again, we did negotiate, and we came up this contract to convey the new water, to get this property to them, and then we get those needed easements in order to construct the stuff that we needed for those tanks and the 24-inch water line. Again, this recommendation is for the city, to authorize the city manager designee to execute an easement conveyance agreement with BTM Holdings in the connection with the 195 water line ground storage tank projects, and furthermore authorize the city manager or designee to execute and deliver all contracts, deeds of trust, filing, closing statements, and any and all documents necessary to complete the conveyance in accordance with this resolution. So really, we're swapping this extra land we don't need for easements for our water lines and tank. And with that, I have any questions? Okay. Well, at least these are getting easier. Okay, and then this one, this item is the final change order for Fire Station Number 4 project. So if you remember in fiscal year '22, the capital improvement plan included the Emergency Operational Center, EOC, for design and funding through the ARPA for $11.9 million. That project in May 3rd of 2022, the City Council approved a motion directing fire excess funds from the fiscal year 2021 fund balance to be allowed and put into construction of the Fire Station Number 4, which is located where the EOC is. Obviously, over there off of Tremere, we just recently opened it. It's in operation. And then, as we got done with construction on February 20th, 2024, City Council approved the award construction with Cirrus Builders for $22,184,000, and that was for both projects, the EOC and the Fire Station Number 4. As we got through the construction in September 25, they were completed and they became operational. This change order represents a final change order for the Fire Station 4 project. We had extra money, we had contingency in the account that we didn't use. So for contract purposes, we have to decrease the contract by the amount that we didn't spend and free up those money or those funds. And so that's what we're here for. This change order reduces the total contract amount with Cirrus by the amount of reducing the contract with the excess contingency in the amount of $514,915.27. What those funds we're looking at is moving those funds and using it to go to the training tower, which I believe the chief has come up to council a couple of times. We had some adjustments to the budget to allow that project with the amount that was done with the budgeting process, and this gives the full amount that they have to build that training tower, again, on the same property by the EOC and Fire Station 4. And then staff recommends that the city council authorize the execution of change order 1, which is the final change order for that whole project, with Cirrus Builders for Fire Station 4, which is a net decrease of $514,916.27. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. And council, I was talking to Mr. Cagle. Half of this, when we did that tax increase, was for half of the tower. And this is the other half that is needed. So I wanted to make sure the public understood that when we voted for the increase for our first responders and also pay raises for our employees, that was included when Chief Kaminsky spoke, but that was only half of it. In order to take care of all of our employees, they couldn't just get it all at one time under the leadership of Mr. Cagle, following our direction. Take care of employees, take care of first responders, but yet and still, it's awesome, that facility. If you have not had the opportunity to go out there, you're missing a wonderful design. It was worth bang for the buck, but that tower is something that Chief Kaminsky did present to the council. And just for the record, I want the public to know, yes, we did use all the funds that we increased tax for our first responders and a raise for our employees. However, the tower was short over $5 million, and this is what we're going to use it for. All right. With that being said, anything else? And that was just clarification, sir. That's all I wanted. All right. You have one more item, sir.
Yes, my last item. Okay. So this is a letter of agreement for the purchase and placement of the water meter replacement Phase 3. So, if you recall, on June 11th, 2024, City Council approved Phase 2 of the water meter replacement program. This is using the radios, using the automatic readers, and at least and focusing so far in the north end of town. So Phase 1 and Phase 2, and we'll just say the Water Meter Replacement Program, WMRP for short, they have been completed, and this is all the residential, the small meters, the 3/4 inch. And Utility Collections is now receiving that automated meter readings from the first 10,000 smart water meters, so that they're automatic system and they're being used currently. This is a combination of the Sensus iPearl water meters with the Sensus FlexNet AMI system, and it's working well. Staff are confident that this combination has been providing the best value in meeting the city's smart water meter needs. So we're able to get more accurate readings, and we know really dialing down where those water shortage, where the excess water is being used, and we're getting the accurate amount of water that's being used at every resident. Okay, so Aquametrics Sales Company, who provided all the components for Phase 1 and Phase 2, submitted a quote from the HGAC by Purchasing Cooperative in the amount of $1,305,192.78, and that is to provide 5,117 radios that'll be applied, because we've had some meters out there, we just need to get the radios on them and start attaching them to some of the meters that already are installed, and have that sitting there with our water sewer. So when they're going out replacing meters or installing new meters at these residents, at the new subdivisions, they're going to be able to get those radios on each of the meters as well. This is also going to install, this contract installs 4,544 new meters in that Phase 3 area. And then also go back to Phase 1 and 2 where those larger commercial meters are. Our main emphasis was on those residential meters for the first 2 phases. This third phase is going to do a combination of expanding the residential meters, but also go back and do 297 commercial meters. And then installing those 5,117 radios and get that software updated to take care of all those new meters. And these are meters from 1 inch to 3 inches, so we're the bigger diameter stuff. And then recommendation is authorize the city manager or designee to execute a letter of agreement with Aquametrics Sales Company in the amount not to exceed $1,305,192.78, and furthermore, authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all contract amendments within the amount set by state and local law. So I'm here for any questions.
I just have one quick question. If I understood you, these meters are for our new development. So all of the city of Killeen, the older areas have all new meters.
We're working on the phased approach on replacing all meters. Eventually, we want to replace all the meters in the city with these new ones. We're focusing up in the north of I-14 and the older part of town. There were I don't have a map, I wish I did, that shows where phases 1, 2, 3, but emphasizing on those older meters and replacing them with these new ones and getting the radios and getting everything operational. The south part of town, there's a lot of new development, so working with the Water and Sewer Department, they're issuing new meters. They've been giving the new meters with these developments. Now, this includes getting radios over to the Water and Sewer Department too, to make sure those are getting installed. So we get not only the new meters and new radios at all the new developments on the stuff growing in the south, and then we focus in on replacing all the older stuff in the north part of town. Once that's all down, then we start working our way south.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Madam Secretary.
PH 25061, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Central Texas Land Development Services on behalf of Linda L. Cosper, case number Z25-27, to rezone approximately 0.23 acres out of the E. Lacer Survey, abstract number 528, also known as lots 6 through 8, and part of Lot 5 out of the Llewellyn Estates Number 3 unrecorded subdivision from B5 Business District to R1 Single Family Residential District. The subject property is locally addressed as 4100 South W.S. Young Drive, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mrs. Mesher.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
This item is a request to rezone approximately .23 acres from B5 to R1. Subject property is located within the intended growth area on the growth sector map and designated as neighborhood commercial in the future land use map. The red star on the screen indicates the location of that property. This is an aerial of the subject property. As you can see, the property is located to the rear of an existing single-family home. The intent here is to replat the area around that home into a larger residential lot. And so the applicant is requesting to rezone the existing B5 to R1 to make it part of the residential lot. Again, the intent of the request is to rezone the rear portion to conform with the single-family land use. This is a picture of the existing home at 4203 Onion Road. This is a view from the subject property facing north, view facing south. We notified 34 surrounding property owners, and we've received no responses regarding the request. This is the notification boundary. This is an exhibit submitted by the applicant of that area. And with that, we are recommending approval of the request as presented. The Planning and Zoning Commission on September 8th recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
There are no questions. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And council, just for the record, RS-25-175, the item was withdrawn by the petitioner. All right, before we go into our regular session, we will take a break. Downey here. Arthur Downey? Arthur Downey.
Another one.
Some people don't have anything better to do with their life than to falsify documentation. All right. I am now calling the meeting to order. Michael Funino, you have 3 minutes.
Since you tuned me out as soon as you called my name, I'm just pretty much going to talk to the residents at home. Anybody else listening on this later? With regard to Mohawk Drive, Rancier Avenue project, this is pretty much an absolute monumental waste of our tax money. I talked to 2 residents on Mohawk Drive today when I went to vote. And most of the people on Mohawk Drive don't want this. We're spending, all told, between Mohawk Drive and Rancier Avenue, projected for the study of it and the planning, just under $10 million. And for Mohawk Drive, let's be honest. Quoth the mayor some time ago, nothing we do up here we don't benefit from. The only person, not the residents, the only person that is going to benefit from Mohawk Drive is a former and recalled council member who strangely, suspiciously, magically has a commercial property that'll have a 4-way intersection as soon as this is done, enhancing its desirability, marketability. I mean, it's a scam. It's right here in front of us. This is not a dais full of elected representatives. This is a wall that just tries to keep people like me who ask questions and don't get answers. You won't sit down. You're afraid to sit down. Tried to have a sit down with you, and everybody here tap danced around anything. Don't bring drama to the lectern. Well, where else am I going to bring it? Anytime you want to be confronted with a sit-down discussion with no barriers, you hide every single time. There's not one spine among you that will sit down with me and a core group of a few citizens who actually have something to say. You won't do it. Rancier Avenue. How many businesses is that going to stall? I've seen the plans. I've asked questions. How's commercial traffic going to get down there? All those businesses along Rancier Avenue. How many of you going to put out of business? One box truck, let alone an 18-wheel, gets stalled on Rancier Avenue. What's that going to do to traffic, emergency services, et cetera, et cetera? Can't get an answer to that. Oh, we'll worry about that later. Meanwhile, you're planning for this. Watercrest, right in my neighborhood, done by summer 2025. Nope. All these plans, but abysmal results, as usual. Want to take that $10 million, rounding up, that $10 million, and go hire somebody who can actually plan and build a road the right way the first time. I mean, it's ridiculous. Time and time and time again. And for the record, for the folks at home, I'm not playing to the camera. Prove to me that you'll sit down and talk with me and a few other people where we can hash this out in less than ridiculous time of 3 minutes. You don't have it in you.
Citizen comments is closed. Thank you, council, for your patience. I left my agenda down there. All right. Can I get a motion and a second and a vote to approve the consent agenda with the exception of RS-25-175? Is that good? Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary and Laura. Thank both of y'all for assistance with that. Council Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda minus RS 25-175.
Councilmember Solomon.
I second it, Mayor.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Council, Mrs. Mesher has gone over the slides for PH-25-061. Would you like for her to go back through the slides? All right. Is the applicant here? Excuse me, is the applicant here?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, did I skip something?
may I read the caption for this?
Oh, ma'am, I apologize, I done moved on.
That's all right. PH 25061, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Central Texas Land Development Services on behalf of Linda L. Cosper, case number Z2527, to rezone approximately 0.23 acres out of the E. Lacer Survey, abstract number 528, also known as lots 6 through 8 and part of lot 5 out of the Llewellyn Estates number 3 unrecorded subdivision from B5 Business District to R1 Single Family Residential District. The subject property is locally addressed as 4100 South W.S. Young Drive, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the City of Killeen zoning ordinance by changing the zoning of approximately 0.23 acres being out of E. Lacer Survey, abstract number 528, also known as lots 6 through 7 and part of lots 5 and 8 from Llewellyn Estates number 3 unrecorded subdivision from B5 Business District to R1 Single Family Residential District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you. Is the applicant here? All right. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion in a second and vote to consider the ordinance? Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve PH 25-061.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Mayor, I second that motion.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready, discussion items.
DS 25049, discuss changes to Chapter 25, Article V, the Assembly and Parade Permit Ordinance.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor and
I'm
Council.
sorry, Councilmember Alvarez, did you have anything? Oh, okay. All right. Good evening, ma'am. Sorry about that.
All right, I'll go ahead and kick this off. So at the September 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Adams requested a future agenda item to make the following change to the parade and assembly ordinance. So currently, there is a provision that says only one parade or one assembly may be held at any one given time on the same day in the city of Killeen through the permit. What was proposed is that more than one parade or assembly may be held on the same day based on availability of required city resources. So at that meeting, council did approve a motion for staff to hold a meeting with stakeholders to include the Downtown Merchants Association, the Downtown Advisory Committee, and the Youth Advisory Council to receive some feedback related to the changes proposed. Staff held this meeting with participants from all three groups on September 19th. And the stakeholders agreed to the change proposed by Mayor Pro Tem Adams, but they also provided some additional changes to the respective ordinance as well as some process changes. I did want to take a minute to just thank our stakeholders who attended the meeting. We had a great turnout, great participation, and that led to some really constructive discussion and feedback, so I thank them for being there. One of the changes that was proposed at the stakeholder meeting is that first-time events and smaller events should not be allowed to close streets, but instead be offered to host their events on city-owned lots downtown. So the city currently has 8 available lots downtown that would be appropriate for holding events up to 500 attendees. Staff believes this is really beneficial change. By eliminating the need to close roads for smaller events, it actually solves several problems that we've seen. This does reduce the burden on the permit applicant to notify any impacted property owners. So currently, if there's a road closure involved, that applicant is going to have to notify any business who now doesn't have access to their driveway, whose store may be impacted. So that does require some work on the applicant's part, and that does take some time. This also alleviates a need for additional security that's required for traffic control when you are closing roads. It also reduces maybe some future costs for barricade delivery. That's not something that we're charging today, but it is something that staff has suggested charging in the future to make sure we can cost recover. Additionally, this would really help reduce the impact to the property owners in the area and be safer for attendees and pedestrians when they're in a confined space of a parking lot instead of a road. So here's kind of a map that you can see of some of the city-owned properties that might be acceptable in the downtown area. You can see they vary greatly in size. They're kind of spread out, but there's also kind of a concentration in this main area here to make sure that there is adequate foot traffic to support some of those businesses, which is a huge benefit of having some of the events downtown. One of the other suggestions received is that events closing roads, some of these larger events, should be required to notify the downtown businesses no less than 15 days prior to the event. So currently, you only have to submit an application 21 days prior to your event. City staff has about a week to review that application, and a lot of times there's conditions that must be met by the applicant in order to hold their event. This could be making sure that they request solid waste containers if it's a large event, that they book off-duty police officers, that they notify those businesses that may be impacted. But that takes time to do, and so we want to make sure that applicant also has ample time to meet those conditions. And one of the process changes they also mentioned is making sure that it's not just the citizens whose driveways are closed, but sending an email to the merchants group. That's not something we'll necessarily codify in an ordinance, but we can absolutely do that in the future to make sure we're being good partners. They also asked for a dedicated area for food trucks or food vendors with generators, so they aren't right in front of their business. So those generators can be noisy, they sometimes produce an odor, so we want to make sure that we're not doing anything to detract people from walking into those stores. Also, vendors with tents or large trucks should be prohibited from blocking their property if the business is open during the event. Again, we just want to make sure that we're being good neighbors. They also asked for an established point of contact just in case an issue comes up during the event. And they suggested permits for large events be submitted even further in advance to ensure adequate time for proper planning. So parade and assembly permits should require different applications. As the larger events, we're thinking events 500 attendees or greater. Those ones that may allow for road closures may even require up to 90 days advance notice. The downtown group also asked about increasing security requirements based on the scope of the event, requiring liability insurance, and maybe even an emergency action plan depending on the scope of the event. They also wanted an opportunity to provide some feedback about the events that are being hosted, particularly in the downtown area, so that staff can kind of consider some of that feedback before issuing a future permit. They'd also like clear requirements in place that come with some tightened guardrails when the event host violates some of these requirements. This can be items like pouring grease in the street, not cleaning up after themselves, making sure that we are appropriately pursuing those individuals who are either causing property damages or leaving the area untidy when they leave, to make sure that that's something to consider before issuing that future permit. And then also, staff really appreciated this change. They asked for a designated parade route to be provided to applicants to really highlight about what's beautiful about downtown and limit disruption where needed. There is a bus station in the area that's private. And in order for that bus station to try and accommodate and work their schedule around their events that are being requested, there's significant work on their end that has to be done, and it requires substantial notification with some of their partners. So rather than place an undue burden on the applicants to submit way far in advance, we suggest avoiding that bus station route to make sure that we can still host some of these events. Oh, here we go. So one of the proposals that staff has to help kind of accommodate some of the proposed changes is to create more of a tiered structure. This is something we found in other cities that have really strong event permit ordinances. And so this tiered structure would base the level of requirements on the type of event and the attendee size. So right now, if you want to host a block party in Killeen, you are supposed to file for a special event permit or a parade and assembly permit. That doesn't require a whole lot of resources typically on the city. So I think our 21-day requirement that we currently have in place is perfectly adequate. They may only require a neighborhood road closure, again, still getting that permission from their neighbors. But it really shouldn't take a whole lot of time to process these, and so we don't want to create an undue burden. However, events with maybe 100 to 500 attendees, these are the ones, especially in the downtown area, that must be hosted in a contained area where we're not closing roads and impacting other businesses negatively. There may be some additional trash container requirements. There may be some security needed, but if they're not closing roads, they'll have an option to use private security rather than our off-duty police officers. This application, to make sure that we get everything in on time, maybe we put a 45-day deadline to make sure that those applicants are submitting that application in and we have adequate review time and adequate notification time. And it would likely be a little bit more expensive because of the work involved. And then you have slightly larger events like a parade, walk, or race, where you may have something more substantial, more lead time, maybe an emergency action plan, liability insurance that may be required. And we actually received our first request for a multiple day event this year. We didn't really have anything in place to handle that. But I mean, having a meeting with staff to kind of discuss the logistics of that and making sure that that's submitted even further in advance would really help to make sure that we're working with those applicants to host a safe, successful, and quality event. So So staff really agreed with a lot of the feedback from stakeholders. They also had a few proposed changes as well. One of them is adjusting the fees accordingly during the next fee schedule review to make sure that we are appropriately recovering costs. I mentioned the barricades earlier. Depending on the scope of the event, that could require significant staff resources and staff time. And so we want to make sure we're recouping those costs where possible. And then, like I said, right now, staff has about a week to review these applications. And what we'll do is shift these applications around to any impacted departments, solid waste, public works, police, fire, make sure that all those bases are covered. Everyone reviews to make sure that that everything is covered and is safe when the event hosts that event. But one of the things that we're seeing is we'll put these conditions on the permit, issue the permit and say, okay, here's your permit. You need to make sure you do X, Y, and Z. Notify the business owners, secure your solid waste container. But at that point, they already have the permit. And sometimes when they're getting that back, especially with a 21-day lead time, they're really putting themselves in a bind when they have to go notify downtown businesses, because now they may only have a week to do that, and that's really not substantial enough for the businesses to be able to adjust their client schedules, to notify their customers if they need to reroute traffic or adjust parking. Maybe they need to adjust their delivery schedule based on any road closures that may occur. So by adding additional days before that required deadline, that'll really help not only the applicant, but also the businesses that are impacted. And then if property damage occurs, having the city, or unexpected city costs incur as a result of the permitted event, the applicant must pay those associated costs before we're issuing a new permit. So if there is some damage to light poles or streets, if those individuals damaged it, they're the ones that should be paying for it. And so we need to make sure that we're holding them accountable as well. And then just a minor one, if an applicant is renting a city facility as part of that permit, that those agreements are signed prior to issuing the permit. So tonight, staff is just seeking direction on the proposed changes to the ordinance so that a revised ordinance can be brought to council for consideration. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I'm just curious, for those events other than parades, other than a parade and actually a concert, but any other event other than city events and residents that's hosting a parade or a concert, the city have so many other areas that they can utilize for an event downtown. If we went that route, we wouldn't have to take away from the business owners. This is their livelihood. This is people, these are people that invested in downtown when we first started, and no one else would invest in downtown. So it's really an inconvenient for the small business owners if we have an event. And I've noticed that some of the events that are downtown, the population, the amount of people that they were expecting to come, it didn't even happen. So what you have done is just shut down these business owners, and they have to adjust their life. But when everybody leaves, they're going to be the ones supporting this city. So I highly recommend, when we think about downtown, other than city events, parades, and a concert, that will have that size of population that would need that kind of space, to utilize the other areas that the city is proposing. Because it's really, at the end of the day, no matter how much we collect in fees, the city, it's really having a negative impact on the business owners that's down there.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yeah,
then
and staff is absolutely-
predicated on what day that person select, that may be their best day for people coming in for lunch. We have the opportunity to do right by the resident, especially our small business owners, which are the cornerstone of our downtown area, to support them and give them the opportunity to rebound, especially after COVID. That's just my recommendation. And you did an excellent job with the presentation and just getting all the stakeholders. That's so important to us. It is extremely important on the stakeholders to have a say. And I know especially with the former Mayor Hancock, the bus station, areas like that, that is their livelihood. And I thank you for choosing a separate route, a recommendation for that. With that being said, Mayor Pro Tem,
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the intent when I submitted this to give staff leeway and to operate more efficiency with submission, because I know the last few events, you were rushing to try to get stuff, and then stuff had to change, and the vendor had to change, and it became a headache. And I like the input that the stakeholders have, and I think that it'll take us in the right direction with growing as we grow as a city. And you don't just have to say no because the ordinance said no. You now can actually staff it to see if we approve, you can staff it to where, okay, we're realistically saying no, this is impossible because of the turmoil that it could cause, or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if I can go now and submit a motion of direction to come back with an ordinance incorporating these suggestions and include, because you mentioned about having a committee review, since we have the Downtown Advisory Committee, and somehow include them in the review process.
Well, and that's a little bit more process related. And so
Okay.
what we can do is create a survey and make sure that we're sending that out to the Downtown Merchants Association to get that feedback.
Yeah, I know, because I mentioned that because we have a council-appointed committee. I don't know, outside of tasking, and I'm sure it will have to be in the ordinance if we task them. The merchants are not ours, but an independent body that we talk to a lot. So that's why I was suggesting that as well. We can't really we can't direct the downtown merchants to do anything.
Well, and we can make that survey available online as well. So if the merchants want to provide feedback, they can. If attendees want to provide feedback, the more feedback we have, the better.
Okay, so then I'll motion a direction to come back with an ordinance incorporating the changes that.
Mayor Pro Tem, it's other council
Okay,
members.
I'll
And
reserve
I
mine.
honestly think with Councilwoman Gonzalez having that investment downtown, and I know you want to get this done for you, but I think it's important that Councilmember Alvarez, who family business down there working downtown, I think they should have a say.
Yeah, I just said that.
Before we go into a motion.
I withdraw my motion of direction.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam. And so, not really speaking for myself, particularly in this case, but just in general, my recommendation as we're working through this is just to ensure the language is not so restrictive. There was a section in there that I saw that said the tents prohibited from blocking the businesses, where I would say without unless otherwise agreed in writing with the owner, So just ensuring that our language is not so restrictive that it ties our hands as we're trying to, put these events together.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Wilson, for bringing this to us and for all the work that went into it. I will always, defer to staff and the stakeholders. I think y'all know best in this instance. These stakeholders are the ones on the ground. They're the ones that are having to deal with the effects between them and the Merchants Association and staff. I'm sure you guys can craft up something that can address the majority of concerns. And like any other ordinance, most of the time we don't get it right the first time. You may have to come back and make amendments to it down the road as you start implementing these changes and start working with it. So I would expect it to be something somewhat fluid in the beginning. I did want to comment, Mayor Pro Tem mentioned a committee review, the downtown committee. My only concern is time. So timeliness sometimes for some of these groups or small businesses or whoever wants to do the event. I don't want to add to that time schedule. So if that was something that we looked into down the road, or that staff and the stakeholders thought was a good idea, just keeping the timeliness in mind to where it's not, becoming some cumbersome hurdle that nobody can really achieve, because now nobody wants to have an event downtown because the bar is too high. So I don't want that to happen. I think we just keep that in mind. One thing, and this is, you didn't really talk about this, but since we're talking about Chapter 25 and Assembly and Parade and permit ordinances, some of the feedback that I got from the last city hosted event in downtown from some of the small businesses that were food trucks down there was that they didn't like the fact that they had to get a itinerant peddler permit in order to set up for these events. It kind of seems like I was just referencing to the something that's above and beyond, something that they don't see in other communities. You know, Harker Heights, Belton, Temple, Coppers Cove, they don't require an itinerant peddler permit. And they come to Killeen, and now it's something out of the ordinary, especially for a city-hosted event. I don't see why it would be required. I understand the purpose of itinerant peddler permit. If you're out peddling goods throughout the city, obviously it makes sense in that regard. But if you're at a city-hosted and city-ran event, and you're not looking to peddle your goods throughout the city, why are we having them do that when it's an extra step that's not really beneficial to the business? And I think it's kind of discouraging some businesses from wanting to participate.
Yeah, and I'll address that a little bit. I believe recent legislation that just passed related to food trucks may help resolve that a little bit. I may let Holly speak to that a little bit more.
There is a statute that passed related to that. It won't go into effect until, I believe, I'm going to speak out of turn because I don't have it in front of me, but I believe next summer sometime, probably, I think June. And so right now, we have an ordinance that requires a permit. If that changed before June, there would be, the state regulation wouldn't come into effect until next summer. And so there will be changes made to the peddler ordinance prior to June. We will recommend those changes.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, and that's in regards to their health inspection, I believe. So they would have a health inspection that's basically county-wide or county-specific, something to that regard, where they wouldn't need something specific to the city. I don't know how that applies to the itinerant peddler permit, but I'm sure you guys can hash that out at the staff level. I just wanted to bring that concern while we were diving into Chapter 25 and this specific ordinance.
Sir. And the parade and assembly permit doesn't specifically address that, but we can certainly bring something else back related to that. Yes, sir.
And also, I like what Councilmember Alvarez stated, the staff, what your opinion, and the downtown merchants, their opinion. So I just want to know, not now, because I will never catch you off guard with a gotcha. When we do bring this back, you can send me an email. I just want to know why that was put in place, since we're dependent on you to complete this ordinance. I'm just curious to why that was put in place, if it's not needed. And I'm not trying to compare us to other cities, because we're 160,000 deep.
Can I get a little clarification on that, on why what?
The merchant peddlers, when they come downtown.
Okay.
And they're saying they shouldn't have to do it because other cities don't do it. Okay, cool, but I just want to know, why did we put it in place? Because we're not like other cities, especially our size and everything. The events, the caliber, and I know I'm boasting, but that's Killeen in me. The caliber of events we put on is at the next level. Why? Is it protecting us from if someone gets sick, from the food? I don't know why, but you can't answer it now? But if you can, fine with me.
I can answer somewhat. The itinerant peddler permit ordinance has been around, I don't have the date in front of me either, but it's been around for many years. And it was not just for downtown events, it's for itinerant peddlers across the city. So it's a separate regulation that works in tandem because they are doing something that requires the itinerant peddler permit when they're operating downtown as well as anywhere else throughout the city.
Oh, that do make sense. But I just want you to know, Killeen, when we put on events, it's at this level. I'm just saying. Councilmember Cigar, you gave me a look, and if you want clarity, you can get it now. Okay, so yes, ma'am, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, that's not my intent, but I was just curious to why. I know, he's saying, let's go home. Council member, Mayor Pro Tem, let's wrap this up.
Thanks. Then I do a motion to direction to come back with an ordinance with all that's been discussed and send it for council for consideration at the next available meeting.
Is that also what staff recommended
Yes,
too?
it was
Whatever change?
incorporating everything that was discussed, stakeholders and proposals that was discussed this evening.
Okay, and the date was?
At the next available meeting. It's when you guys have it ready. Oh, well, then,
As available?
as available.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
As
you.
available.
Give them some space.
Yes, I didn't want to say like next week, but, so as you have it available.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Solomon.
Seconded.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. And our last item, it's not that time, Councilman Cigar. Madam Secretary.
DS 25050, discuss combining the Construction Board of Appeals, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Fire Board of Adjustment, and Aviation Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Council. You know, this item here, Mr. Cagle had already spoken about it. It's been a while ago, and our city attorney has done all the research, and from her expert opinion, she's going to tell us what the staff recommend the direction we go.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This item is to discuss whether council would like to consider consolidating the 4 boards of adjustment. And just as a reminder, those 4 boards that we're talking about are the zoning board, the construction board, aviation board, and fire board. And notably, just the fire board and the aviation board meet very infrequently, probably twice in the last 10 years, very, very infrequently. Construction board and zoning board meet much more frequently than that. The issue here, when we've talked about this issue in the past, this came back up when we were making annual appointments this year, and zoning board was one of the boards that weren't able to fill in September for the annual appointments. And so before we bring that back, we wanted to ask you if you wanted to think about consolidating that, because it would be, as far as timeliness, it would be better to go ahead and look at that if you want to do it now before appointing new members to the zoning board. What that would require is consolidation would require changes to the Code of Ordinances in various sections. It would make some changes to the international codes that have requirements to certain of those boards, and it would make changes to Chapter 8 and Chapter 31, and probably various changes to Chapter 7 with the fire ordinance as well. And so, if council is wanting to consider consolidation, staff has looked at that and what that would entail. But if you're wanting to do that, I would recommend we can start getting that ordinance together. We would take it to Construction Board because they look at Chapter 8 revisions, and then Planning and Zoning, they look at Chapter 31 revisions, and then bring an ordinance back to council for review and for adoption. So the question is right now tonight is this what you want to do? Do you want to look at consolidating? Do you want us to bring it back an ordinance that would do that? And then obviously if you have any other questions or concerns or discussion, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for all your hard work. Council, if you would like a motion of direction for staff to bring an ordinance back with their recommendation to combine different committees together. One of the main reasons I would say is lack of participation. So it might as well bring people together. And that would be DS-25-050. And this is a motion of direction. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, we direct staff to come back with a consolidation of those committees and an appropriate ordinance changes.
That's good. Councilmember Alvarez.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Okay. A motion of direction carries 6-0. Councilmember Sagara, can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem seconded. Okay, one of them for her record.
Yeah.
Kendrick? Councilmember Kendrick second the motion, Madam Secretary. I apologize for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Put you in the record.
Stop, for the record.